Jake Martinez stood in the docking bay of the Galactic Concordance Academy and tried not to look too impressed. The station was massive, bigger than any structure humans had ever built. Through the windows, he could see ships from 100 different worlds coming and going. Some looked like birds, others like fish, and one looked like a floating crystal. Jake grinned. This was going to be fun. A tall alien walked toward him. The creature had 6 arms, scales like a lizard, and eyes that looked like they could see right through him. Jake recognized the species from his briefing. This was a Korthaxi, one of the most respected warrior races in the galaxy. The alien stopped in front of him and looked down. Jake was not short by human standards, but this being made him feel small. "You are the human," the alien said. His voice sounded like gravel in a blender. "I am Instructor Vexthor. You will address me as Instructor or Sir. You will follow orders. You will train hard. You will probably fail. Do you understand?" Jake smiled and stuck out his hand. "Nice to meet you, sir. I'm Jake. Looking forward to learning from you." Vexthor stared at the extended hand like it might explode. After a long moment, he reached out with one of his 6 arms and briefly touched Jake's hand. The instructor's scales felt cold and dry. Then Vexthor pulled back quickly. "Follow me," Vexthor said, turning away. "The other cadets are gathering in the main hall. Try not to embarrass your species more than necessary." Jake followed, his bag slung over one shoulder. The corridors were wide and tall, built to accommodate beings of many different sizes and shapes. They passed several aliens along the way. A floating jellyfish-like creature glowed softly as it drifted past. A small furry being with too many legs scurried along the walls. A humanoid covered in what looked like moss nodded at them as they walked by. Everyone stared at Jake. He waved at a few of them. Most looked away quickly. One dropped the datapad it was carrying. Jake wondered if humans looked that strange to them. Sure, he only had 2 arms and no tail, but he thought he was pretty normal looking. The main hall was enormous. Hundreds of cadets filled the space, representing dozens of different species. Jake saw beings made of crystal, creatures that looked like walking plants, and things he could not even begin to describe. Near the front, a group of insect-like aliens with shimmering wings stood together. Their bodies flashed with different colored lights. A female human in uniform approached Jake. She was older, maybe 40, with short gray hair and sharp eyes. "Cadet Martinez," she said quietly. "I'm Commander Sella Grant. I'm the human liaison here. A word of advice. Keep your head down, follow the rules, and do not do anything stupid. Earth's reputation depends on how you perform here." "No pressure then," Jake said with a grin. Commander Grant did not smile. "I'm serious, Martinez. The galaxy is watching. Don't mess this up." She walked away before Jake could respond. Jake found a spot near the back of the hall. Next to him stood a massive being that looked like it was carved from blue crystal. The creature was at least 8 feet tall and reflected the lights in the room like a prism. "Hello," Jake said. "I'm Jake," the crystal being looked down at him. When it spoke, its voice chimed like wind through glass. "I am Torvin from Praxis 9. You are the human, yes?" "That's me. First human in the academy, I guess." "Third, actually," Torvin said. "But the first in 20 cycles. Your species is very rare here." Before Jake could ask more, a loud sound echoed through the hall. All the cadets fell silent. Instructor Vexthor walked to the center of the room, followed by several other instructors of different species. Vexthor's voice boomed across the space. "Welcome to the Galactic Concordance Academy. You have been chosen from millions of candidates across hundreds of worlds. You are here to become the best. Most of you will fail. Those who succeed will protect the weak, maintain peace, and face dangers most beings cannot imagine." Jake listened carefully. This was the standard military speech. He had heard similar words back in the Marines. Different words, same message. Work hard, do not give up. Become something greater than yourself. To begin your training, Vexthor continued, you must first understand what danger truly means. Many of you come from safe worlds where predators are extinct or controlled. The galaxy is not safe. There are creatures and forces that will kill you without hesitation. You must learn to recognize true danger. The lights in the hall dimmed. A large containment field appeared in the center, crackling with blue energy. Inside the field, something moved in the shadows. Jake leaned forward, curious. Around him, the other cadets grew very quiet. Some moved back slightly. "This," Vexthor said, "is a Vrexian Shadowstalker. It comes from a Class 9 Deathworld. It is one of the most dangerous predators known to the Concordance. It has killed 17 trained handlers. It fears nothing. It hunts everything. The creature stepped into the light and Jake got his first good look at it. The thing was massive, easily 8 feet tall at the shoulder. Its body was covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. 6 glowing eyes tracked the movement of every cadet in the room. Its mouth opened slightly, revealing rows of crystalline teeth that looked sharp enough to cut through metal. 4 powerful legs ended in claws that scraped against the floor with a sound like knives on stone. A long tail swished behind it, lined with more sharp scales. The shadow stalker growled, a sound so deep Jake felt it in his chest. Around him, cadets moved back. The insect-like beings near the front flashed red and orange, colors that Jake guessed meant fear. Torvin's crystal body seemed to dim slightly. Even some of the instructors looked uncomfortable. Jake tilted his head and studied the creature. It was impressive, no doubt about that. Big, strong, clearly dangerous. But something about it seemed familiar. The way it moved reminded him of something from Earth. The way its ears twitched. The way its tail moved. The way it watched everyone in the room. It reminded him of a cat. A very, very large cat, sure, with more teeth and scarier eyes, but still basically a cat. This creature, Vexthor was saying, represents the kind of threat you may face in your career. It is faster than most of you, stronger than all of you. Its scales can resist most conventional weapons. Its senses can detect prey from miles away. When you see something like this, your only option is to run or call for backup. Never approach a Class 9 predator alone. Never assume you can. Jake started walking forward. He did not really think about it. He just wanted a closer look. Behind him, he heard Torvin whisper, "What is he doing?" Vexthor stopped talking. "Cadet, step back, now." But Jake was already at the containment field, looking up at the shadow stalker. The creature looked down at him. All 6 eyes focused on this small being who dared to approach. Jake smiled and made a soft clicking sound with his tongue, the same sound he used to call his neighbor's cat back home. "Hey there, kitty," Jake said softly. "Who's a big scary monster? You are." "Yes, you are." The shadow stalker's head tilted. One of its ear ridges twitched. The aggressive posture it had held relaxed slightly. The creature took a step closer to the field, its eyes still locked on Jake. "Martinez!" Commander Grant's voice cut through the silence. "Get back here immediately!" Jake ignored her. He had seen that head tilt before. That was curiosity. The creature was not preparing to attack. It was trying to figure him out. Jake had grown up around animals. His family had dogs, cats, even a rescue raccoon for a while. His uncle had a farm with horses and cows. He knew how to read body language. "Fascinating," Jake said, looking at the creature's paws. "You've got retractable claws. Like a big cat. And look at those whiskers. You hunt by feel in the dark, don't you? Smart kitty." Vexthor moved toward them, 2 of his arms reaching for a control panel. "I will lower the field slightly to demonstrate the creature's aggression. Everyone stand back." The field flickered, creating a small gap near the bottom. It was only meant to be for a second, just enough to let the creature's roar echo through the room properly. But Jake saw the gap and did not hesitate. He reached through and touched the creature's head, right behind where its ear ridge met its skull. The room went completely silent. Every being froze. Commander Grant's face went pale. Vexthor's scales turned a color somewhere between purple and gray, something no one had ever seen before. The other cadets looked ready to run. The shadow stalker closed all 6 of its eyes. Its massive head pressed into Jake's hand, and then it started to purr. The sound was incredible. It rumbled through the entire hall like distant thunder or a large engine. The floor vibrated. The containment field hummed in harmony with it. The shadow stalker leaned harder into Jake's hand, nearly pushing him off balance. "Good kitty," Jake said, laughing as he scratched behind the creature's ridge. "Who's a good kitty? You are." "Such a good kitty." The creature's tail, which had been swishing aggressively, now moved in slow, lazy waves. It opened one eye and looked at Jake with what could only be described as contentment. Then it tried to push its head through the gap in the field to get closer to the source of the wonderful scratches. Vexthor finally found his voice. What? That is not possible." Jake looked back at the instructor, still petting the shadow stalker. "Sir, is something wrong?" "That creature has killed 17 handlers." Vexthor's voice rose higher. The cafeteria at the Galactic Concordance Academy was designed to feed hundreds of different species. Some ate plants. Some ate meat. Some absorbed energy directly. Some needed food in liquid form. Jake stood in line with his tray, looking at the options with interest. Everything was labeled with symbols he was still learning to read. He picked something that looked like pasta, something that might be vegetables, and a piece of what the server assured him was safe for his biology. The server was a small being covered in soft fur, with large eyes that blinked sideways. "You are the human who touched the shadow stalker," the server said. Its voice was high and squeaky. "You are famous. Everyone talks about you." "Oh, thanks?" Jake took his tray and looked for a place to sit. Most of the tables were full. He spotted Torvin sitting alone at a large table and headed that way, the crystal being looked up as Jake approached. "May I join you?" Jake asked. "Please," Torvin said. His body chimed softly as he gestured to an empty seat. "I would be honored." Jake sat down and started eating. The pasta was interesting. It had a spicy kick to it that made his mouth tingle pleasantly. He took another bite and nodded in approval. "Good stuff." Zira Lynn approached the table, her lights flashing, and what Jake was learning meant curiosity. "May I sit?" she asked. "Sure," Jake said, gesturing to the seat across from him. Zira Lynn sat, placing her own tray on the table. Her food looked like small cubes that glowed faintly. As she ate one, her body lights changed color. "How are you eating that?" Zira Lynn asked suddenly, pointing at Jake's pasta. Jake paused with his fork halfway to his mouth. "Eating what?" "That is Thraxian grain paste. It contains capsaicin compounds. Those are toxic to most species. Even touching it makes my people ill." Jake looked down at his food. It's just a little spicy." "I like spicy food." "Spicy," Torvin repeated. "You mean the pain sensation?" "You enjoy pain?" "No, not pain. It's more like a tingle. It makes food taste better." Jake took another bite to demonstrate. Both Torvin and Zira Lynn stared at him. "What? Lots of humans like spicy food. My mom makes this dish with peppers that'll make you cry, but it's delicious." Zira Lynn's lights flashed red. "You consume toxins that cause pain and make you cry. For enjoyment." "When you put it like that, it sounds weird," Jake said. "But yeah, basically." A shadow fell across the table. Jake looked up to see a large alien with 4 arms and a face that looked like a mix between a bull and a bear. The creature's skin was dark gray and rough like stone. "You are the human," the alien said. Its voice was deep and aggressive. "The one who claims to have tamed the shadow stalker." "I did not tame it," Jake said calmly. "I just petted it. And yeah, I'm human. Jake Martinez. Nice to meet you." The alien leaned closer. "I am Crone from the granite cliffs of Thresh. My people are the strongest in the academy. We do not believe your story. You must have used technology or tricks." "No tricks," Jake said. "Just scratched its head." "It liked that. Impossible. My people have trained for generations to face such creatures. You are small and weak. You could not—" "Crone," Torvin interrupted gently. "Perhaps this is not the place for such discussions." Crone glared at Torvin, then back at Jake. Finally, he snorted and walked away. Jake watched him go, then shrugged and returned to his food. "You should be careful," Zira Lynn said quietly. "Crone does not like being challenged. His people pride themselves on strength." "I was not challenging him," Jake said. "I was just eating lunch." The afternoon brought xenobiology class. Jake entered the classroom with the other cadets. The room was set up like a theater, with rows of seats descending toward a large display screen at the front. The instructor was a thin alien with long limbs and a head that reminded Jake of a praying mantis. "Welcome," the instructor said. Her voice was soft but clear. "I am Professor Lindra. Today we will discuss planetary classifications and how they affect the evolution of intelligent species." The screen behind her lit up, showing a chart with numbers and categories. Professor Lindra began explaining the system. Class 1 through 4 were garden worlds perfect for life with minimal dangers. Class 5 through 8 were standard habitable worlds with moderate challenges. Class 9 through 11 were dangerous worlds with extreme conditions or hostile wildlife. And then, Professor Lindra said, "We have Class 12 through 15. These are what we call deathworlds. Planets so hostile that most species would die within hours of exposure. High gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme weather, and dangerous predators are common. Very few intelligent species evolve on deathworlds, and fewer still achieve space travel." The screen showed images of several planets. One was covered in active volcanoes. Another had storms that never ended. A third seemed to be completely frozen. Professor Lindra pointed to one image. This is an example of a Class 12 Deathworld. Notice the high oxygen content in the atmosphere, which makes everything more flammable and aggressive. The gravity is nearly double standard, and the biodiversity includes over 40 different apex predator species in a single region. Jake leaned forward. That planet looked familiar. The continents were the right shape. The oceans were the right color. He saw green forests and brown deserts and white polar caps. Professor Lindra continued. Only one intelligent species has ever evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld and achieved space travel. They call their planet Earth. They call themselves humans. Every head in the classroom turned to look at Jake. He blinked in surprise. Is that true? Zira Lynn asked. Her lights were flashing rapidly, cycling through colors Jake had not seen before. You are from a Class 12 Deathworld? I guess so, Jake said. I mean, that is Earth, that is my planet. But I did not know it was considered that dangerous. It is just home. Several cadets moved their seats away from Jake. Others stared at him like he had suddenly grown extra heads. Torvin's crystal body dimmed noticeably. Just home, someone repeated from the back of the room. He says a Deathworld is just home. Professor Lindra raised a hand for silence. Cadet Martinez, perhaps you could share some details about Earth with the class? It would be educational. Sure, Jake said, standing up. He walked down to the front of the class. What do you want to know? The chart says your planet has 40 apex predators in one region, a small furry cadet said. How do you survive? We are careful, Jake said. We learn which areas are dangerous and avoid them unless we are prepared. Most predators will leave you alone if you do not bother them. Some of them we even keep as pets. The classroom erupted in noise. Everyone started talking at once. Professor Lindra had to call for silence twice. Pets, Zira Lynn said slowly. You keep predators as pets. Well, not the really big ones, Jake said. I mean, some people keep big cats or bears in sanctuaries, but most of us stick to dogs and cats. Oh, and birds, fish, snakes, lizards, spiders, ferrets, rabbits, spiders. Someone gasped. You keep venom carriers as companions? Some people do, Jake said. Not me, but my friend Kyle had a tarantula. Named it Fluffy. It was pretty cute, actually. Professor Lindra was making notes on her datapad. Fascinating. Tell me, Cadet Martinez, what about the natural disasters mentioned in Earth's file? Earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis? Oh yeah, we get those, Jake said casually. You just have to be prepared. Build strong houses, have emergency supplies, know what to do when warnings go out. Most of the time you are fine if you follow the safety rules. Most of the time, Crone said from the back. His voice was quieter now, less aggressive. You say that like death is just an acceptable risk. Jake shrugged. Everything has risks. You could get hit by a car crossing the street. You could get sick. You could have an accident. That is just life. You do not stop living because there are risks. You just try to be smart about it. The classroom was silent. Jake looked around at all the staring faces and realized he might have said something wrong. That, Professor Lindra said quietly, is the most Deathworlder thing I have ever heard. Thank you, Cadet Martinez. You may sit down. After class, Jake walked back to the barracks alone. Well, not completely alone. Several cadets followed him at a distance, whispering to each other. He pretended not to notice. This was getting weird. He had just described normal life on Earth. Why was everyone acting like he had revealed some terrible secret? In the barracks, Jake found Torvin sitting on his bunk, the crystal being looked up as Jake entered. May I ask you something? Torvin said. Sure, Jake said, sitting on his own bunk across from Torvin. Are you aware of how dangerous you are? Jake blinked. Dangerous? I am not dangerous. I am just a guy. You survived on a world that would kill most species within days, Torvin said slowly. You consume toxins for pleasure. You treat apex predators like companions. You accept death as a normal part of life. Jake, my homeworld has no large predators. The most dangerous thing on my planet is a small creature that makes you itch if it touches you. We have no natural disasters. Our gravity is half of yours, and we are considered a standard world. Jake tried to process this. Half the gravity? No predators? That sounded boring, but also kind of nice. So what you are saying, Jake said slowly, is that Earth is unusual? Unusual is not a strong enough word, Torvin said. His body chimed softly with emotion. Jake, I watched you pet the shadow stalker. I watched you eat toxic food without concern. Today in the gym during... Jake ran through the corridors toward the xenobiology wing. The emergency alarms blared overhead, making his ears ring. Red lights flashed everywhere. He passed a few stragglers still heading for the safe zones, and they stared at him like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. But Jake had grown up with a simple rule. When someone needs help, you help. It did not matter if it was dangerous. You did what needed to be done. That was just being a decent person. He reached the entrance to the xenobiology wing and stopped. The doors were sealed with emergency barriers. Through the windows, he could see movement inside. Something large and fast. Something small and skittering. And in the middle of it all, he could see what looked like the observation dome where he had first seen the Shadow Stalker. Jake spotted a maintenance access panel next to the door. He pried it open with the fire extinguisher and squeezed through the narrow shaft. The metal was cold against his shoulders. He crawled forward, following the shaft as it led deeper into the wing. He emerged in a storage room. Carefully, he opened the door and peeked out. The main corridor was a mess. Equipment was scattered everywhere. Several containment units had been breached. And moving through the chaos were 3 different creatures. The first ones he saw were what looked like a pack of 5 reptilian creatures. They were about the size of large dogs, with spines running down their backs and teeth that seemed too large for their mouths. They moved together, coordinated like wolves. Jake recognized pack behavior when he saw it. Thornback rippers, according to the label on the broken containment unit. Class 8 predators from a high-gravity world. They hunted in packs and could take down prey twice their size. Jake watched them sniff the air and prowl down the corridor. They were looking for food. The second creature was harder to spot. It clung to the ceiling, a mass of silvery threads and too many legs. A silk spinner from a cold desert world. Venomous, according to the file Jake had read during his briefing. It did not move like earth spiders, though. It flowed across the ceiling like liquid metal. And then Jake saw the third creature, and his breath caught in his throat. It was wrapped around one of the main support beams like a snake, but it was much larger than any snake Jake had ever seen. Its body was segmented, almost mechanical looking. Multiple tentacles extended from various points, exploring the environment. Each tentacle ended in something that looked like a combination of a claw and a sucker. A void serpent. Juvenile, thankfully. Full-grown ones could survive in the vacuum of space and crush starships, but even young ones were dangerous. This one was maybe 30 feet long, and every part of it looked designed to grab, crush, and consume. Jake took a deep breath. Okay. 3 different species. 3 different threat profiles. 3 different solutions needed. He could do this. It was just like managing wildlife back home. Sort of. If wildlife back home included alien monsters that could kill him in seconds, he started with the Thornback Rippers. They were the most immediately dangerous because they were actively hunting. Jake stepped out into the corridor and yelled. The pack turned as one, 5 sets of eyes locking onto him. Jake stood his ground. He made himself bigger, raising his arms and the fire extinguisher. He yelled again, deeper this time, a sound meant to intimidate. The Rippers hesitated. They were pack hunters, which meant they were smart. Smart enough to recognize something that did not act like prey. Jake took a step forward, still making noise. The lead Ripper growled, showing its teeth. Jake growled back. It was a trick he had learned working with aggressive dogs at the shelter. Sometimes you had to speak their language. You had to show them you were not scared, even when you absolutely were. The Rippers backed up a step, then another. Jake advanced, maintaining eye contact with the leader. He herded them slowly back toward their containment unit. When they tried to split up and circle him, he shifted his position to block them. It was like working with livestock, guiding them where you wanted them to go. Finally, the Rippers were backed into a corner near their unit. Jake grabbed a piece of debris and threw it behind them, into the unit. They turned to look, and Jake slammed his hand on the control panel. The containment field snapped back into place. The Rippers were trapped again, 1 down, 2 to go. The silk spinner was next. It had moved closer while Jake dealt with the Rippers, and now it hung directly above him on the ceiling. Its many eyes watched him with alien intelligence. Jake could see venom glistening on its mandibles. He remembered something from the briefing files. Silk spinners came from cold worlds. They were adapted for low temperatures. Jake looked at the fire extinguisher in his hands and smiled. Fire extinguishers did not actually make fire. They made things very cold. Jake aimed the extinguisher at the ceiling and triggered it. White foam sprayed out, covering the area where the silk spinner clung. The temperature dropped instantly. The creature recoiled, skittering away from the cold. Jake followed it, spraying more foam, herding it back toward its habitat. The silk spinner hissed at him, a sound like steam escaping. But it kept moving away from the cold. Jake drove it back into its enclosure, a climate-controlled box designed for desert environments. As soon as it was inside, Jake hit the controls. The door sealed shut, 2 down, 1 to go. The hard one. Jake looked up at the void serpent. It had not moved much, still wrapped around the support beam. But its tentacles were more active now, reaching out farther, testing the air, looking for something. Jake set down the mostly empty fire extinguisher and walked slowly toward the creature. He remembered something his uncle had taught him about snakes. They had poor eyesight but good motion detection, move slow and steady, and they might not see you as a threat. The void serpent's head turned slightly, tracking Jake's movement. He kept walking, hands visible, posture relaxed. He started making a clicking sound with his tongue, rhythmic and steady. The creature's head tilted, just like the shadow stalker had done. Jake spotted a laser pointer on a nearby desk, probably used for presentations. He grabbed it without sudden movements and turned it on. The red dot appeared on the wall. Jake moved it slowly, making a pattern. The void serpent's eyes followed the dot. One tentacle reached out toward it. Jake kept the pattern going, slow circles on the wall. The creature unwrapped slightly from the beam, more interested in this strange moving light. It reminded Jake of playing with cats. They loved chasing light dots. Even the smartest predator could be distracted by something simple and bright that moved in interesting ways. Jake started walking backward slowly, keeping the laser pointer moving. The void serpent followed, sliding down from the beam. Its tentacles reached for the dot, never quite catching it. Jake led it across the corridor, step by careful step. He could see the serpent's containment unit ahead. It was a large cylindrical chamber filled with some kind of thick liquid. The door was open, liquid slowly leaking out. Jake moved the dot toward the entrance. The serpent followed eagerly now, completely focused on catching the light. One of its tentacles brushed against Jake's leg. The touch sent a chill through him, but he did not flinch. He just kept the laser moving. A tentacle wrapped around Jake's arm. Not squeezing, just holding, testing. Jake froze. This was the moment. If the serpent decided he was food, it would crush his arm before he could react. He kept breathing slowly, kept the laser moving with his other hand. The tentacle released him. The serpent slithered forward, chasing the dot. Jake moved it into the containment unit. The creature followed without hesitation. As soon as it was fully inside, Jake hit the emergency seal button. The door slammed shut. The void serpent pressed against the transparent wall, still looking for the red dot. Jake turned off the laser pointer and let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. All 3 creatures were contained. The crisis was over. Jake heard footsteps behind him, heavy footsteps. He turned to see a full security team arriving, all of them in heavy armor and carrying weapons that looked like they could punch through walls. The team leader stopped when he saw Jake standing there casually, surrounded by sealed containment units. What? How? The team leader removed his helmet. He was a large alien with 4 arms and gray skin. You are the human cadet. Yes, sir. Jake Martinez. I heard the alarm and came to help. The creatures are all back in containment now. You might want to check the seals, though. Some of them look damaged. The team leader stared at him. You contained them? All 3. By yourself? Yes, sir. They were not that hard to handle once I figured out their behaviors. The Rippers respond to dominance displays. The silk spinner does not like cold. And the serpent, well, it is basically a cat. A big space cat that can survive in a vacuum, but still a cat. One of the security team members made a sound like choking. Another dropped their weapon. The team leader just closed his eyes and took a deep breath. A cat, the team leader said slowly. The void serpent, a Class 9 predator capable of crushing starships. You compared it to a cat. A big cat, Jake corrected helpfully. With tentacles. The team leader, whose name tag read Captain Dren, rubbed his face with 2 of his 4 hands. Of course you did. Why am I surprised? You petted the shadow stalker. Why would anything else be different? More footsteps echoed through the corridor. Instructor Vexthor arrived. 2 days after the containment breach, Jake was called to Commander Grant's office. He walked through the corridors feeling nervous. The other cadets still stared at him, but now there was something different in their eyes. Not just fear or curiosity. Something like respect. Zira Lin had actually asked him to teach her some basic animal behavior reading. Torvin wanted to know more about Earth's wildlife. Even Crone had stopped glaring at him, though the big alien still kept his distance. Jake reached the commander's office and pressed the door chime. Grant's voice called for him to enter. Inside, he found not just the commander, but 3 aliens he had never seen before. The first was tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of pale green leaves. The second was covered in soft white fur and had the kindest eyes Jake had ever seen. The third was medium-sized with silver scales and a very serious expression. Cadet Martinez, Commander Grant said. These are the evaluation team from the Galactic Council. They have come to assess your performance and, through you, evaluate humanity's application to the Concordance. Jake felt his stomach drop. This was it. This was the big moment. Earth's entire future in the galaxy might depend on how he performed in the next few days. No pressure, he muttered quietly. The silver-scaled alien stepped forward. I am Arbiter Lindara. I will be leading this evaluation. My colleagues are Dr. Kelness, she gestured to the fur-covered one, and Strategist Vaughn. The plant-like being nodded. We have reviewed the reports of your actions. The Shadowstalker incident. The containment breach. Your performance in classes. We are here to determine if these reports are accurate and what they mean for your species. I understand, Jake said. What do you need me to do? Dr. Kelness spoke next. His voice was soft and gentle. We need to understand your psychology, your motivations, your approach to danger. Please sit. We have many questions. The questions went on for hours. They asked about his childhood, his training, his family, his fears. They asked why he had approached the Shadowstalker, why he had run toward the containment breach, what he thought when he saw dangerous creatures. Jake answered honestly. He told them about growing up near the mountains where bears and cougars lived. He explained how his parents had taught him to respect nature but not fear it. He described working at the animal shelter, learning that even scared, aggressive animals could be helped with patience and understanding. When you see a dangerous creature, Strategist Vaughn asked, what is your first thought? Jake considered this. I guess I think about what it might do, what it wants, what might make it aggressive or calm. I do not really think about whether I should be scared. I think about how to handle the situation safely. Dr. Kelness exchanged a look with the others. You do not feel fear? I feel it, Jake said. But fear is just information. It tells you something is dangerous. Once you know that, you can decide how to respond. Sometimes you run. Sometimes you fight. Sometimes you just stay calm and work through the problem. Lindara made notes on her data pad. And this philosophy is common among humans? I think so, Jake said. I mean, everyone handles fear differently. But most people I know understand that you cannot let fear control you. You acknowledge it and then do what needs to be done anyway. The next day brought physical testing. Jake went through a series of exercises in the Academy's training facilities. Strength tests, endurance runs, reaction time measurements, combat simulations. The evaluators watched everything, recording data. Jake pushed himself hard, but he knew he was not doing anything exceptional. He was fit, well-trained, but back on Earth plenty of people could outperform him. His friend Lisa could run faster. Danny was stronger. Chen had better reflexes. During a break, Dr. Kelness approached him with what looked like concern on his furry face. May I ask you something personal? Of course, sir. Your physical performance is remarkable. By our standards, you are extraordinarily strong and fast. Your endurance is exceptional. Yet you seem to view yourself as average. Is this accurate? Jake shrugged. I am pretty average for a human. I was never the best at anything back in basic training. I passed all the tests, but lots of people did better. The doctor's eyes widened slightly. So there are humans significantly more capable than you? Oh yeah. Olympic athletes, special forces operators, professional fighters. Those people are on a whole different level. I am just a regular guy who stayed in shape. Dr. Kelness walked back to his colleagues. Jake saw them talking quietly, their body language suggesting concern. Strategist Vaughn seemed excited, making quick gestures. Lindara remained calm, but her tail was moving in a way that suggested deep thought. The final test came on the third day. Combat simulation. Jake was briefed on the scenario. A facility had been taken over by hostile forces. Civilians were trapped inside. Dangerous creatures from the local environment had also entered the building. His mission was to rescue the civilians and secure the facility. Most species would need a full tactical team for this. Jake was going in alone. This was the real test. This would show the evaluators how a human responded to complex, dangerous situations. Jake entered the simulation arena. It was incredibly realistic, with holographic environments and physical obstacles. The hostile forces were drones programmed to act like enemy combatants. The creatures were more holograms, but sensors tracked whether Jake would have been hit by their attacks. He moved through the facility methodically. When he encountered the first group of hostiles, he did not immediately engage. Instead, he observed their patrol patterns. He waited for an opening. Then he moved through using stealth and cover. When stealth failed and combat became necessary, Jake used non-lethal techniques where possible. Disabling shots, tactical takedowns. He saved lethal force for situations where there was no other choice. The creatures were interesting challenges. Jake recognized their behavior patterns. One was territorial, so he avoided its space. Another was attracted to movement, so he used distractions. A third was a pack hunter, so he separated them and dealt with them individually. He found the civilians in a locked room. They were holographic representations of various species, programmed to act frightened and confused. Jake spoke to them calmly, explaining his plan to get them out safely. He led them through the safest route he had scouted, protecting them from threats. The final challenge was a large predator blocking the exit. In the simulation parameters, killing it was an option, but Jake studied it for a moment and recognized behavior he had seen before. The creature was not hunting. It was scared and defensive. Jake used the environment to create an escape route for the creature, giving it a way out that did not involve going through him. The creature took it, leaving peacefully. Jake led the civilians to safety. The simulation ended. Jake stepped out of the arena, breathing hard but satisfied. He had completed the mission with minimal casualties. Most of the hostile forces were disabled, not killed. The creatures were all unharmed. Every civilian was safe. The evaluators were waiting. Lindara gestured for him to sit. "Explain your choices," she said. "Why did you not simply eliminate all threats?" Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. "Because elimination should be the last resort. Those hostile forces in a real situation would be people. Maybe they are forced to fight. Maybe they have families. Maybe they can be reasoned with. You do not take a life unless there is absolutely no other option. That is basic ethics. And the creatures?" Strategist Vaughn asked. "You could have killed them safely." "They were just animals," Jake said. "They did not choose to be there. They were scared and confused. Killing them would be wrong when there were other solutions. Animals are not evil. They are just following their nature." Dr. Kelness leaned forward. His voice was very quiet. "You are from a death world. You were trained as a warrior. You have the capability to kill efficiently, yet you choose restraint. Why?" Jake met the doctor's eyes. "Because having the power to hurt someone does not mean you should use it. My grandmother used to say that real strength is knowing when not to fight. Being from a dangerous world taught me to survive, but being human taught me to value life. All life, even the lives of people and creatures that might be threats." The room was silent. The three evaluators looked at each other. Jake could not read their expressions, but something had shifted in the atmosphere. Finally, Lindara spoke. "Thank you, Cadet Martinez. We need to deliberate. You will have our decision tomorrow." Jake stood and saluted. He left the room feeling exhausted and uncertain. Had he done well? Had he said the right things? He had no idea. That evening, Jake sat in the common area with Torvin and Zira Lynn. They had become his closest friends at the academy. They did not treat him like a dangerous alien. They just treated him like Jake. "How do you think it went?" Zira Lynn asked. Her lights were flashing in concerned patterns. "I do not know," Jake admitted. "I just tried to be honest. Tell them what I really think and feel. Either it is enough or it is not." "I hope it is enough," Torvin said. His voice chimed softly. "The galaxy needs humans. You bring something different, something valuable. You see possibilities others miss. You solve problems others consider impossible. Or we are just too stubborn to know when to give up," Jake said with a tired smile. Jake was in his quarters when the alarm sounded. He jumped to his feet immediately, old training kicking in. Around him, other cadets looked confused and scared. The announcement came through the speakers. "Terrorist attack, hostages taken, all personnel to shelter in place." Torvin grabbed Jake's arm with one crystal hand. Do not even think about it. Think about what? Whatever you are thinking. That look on your face. I have seen it before. You are planning to do something dangerous and stupid. Jake started to deny it, but Commander Grant burst into the barracks. Her face was grim. Martinez. With me. Now. They ran through the corridors to the command center. Inside, Jake saw Instructor Vexthor, Captain Dren, and the 3 evaluators gathered around a holographic display. It showed the xenobiology wing. Red indicators marked hostile positions. Blue markers showed the hostages. The situation is this, Commander Grant said without preamble. A group called the Purity Front has taken the xenobiology wing. They oppose Deathworld species joining the Concordance. They have 17 hostages, including several cadets and Dr. Kelness. They are armed and have threatened to kill 1 hostage every hour until their demands are met. What are their demands? Jake asked. You, Arbiter Lindara said quietly. They want you turned over to them for public execution. They plan to broadcast it across the galaxy as a warning against integrating dangerous species. Jake felt his blood run cold. How long until the security team can breach the wing? Captain Dren shook his head. 30 minutes minimum. They have barricaded the main entrances and have sensors covering the approach routes. We cannot get close without them detecting us, and if they detect us, they start killing hostages. There is another option, Lindara said, looking directly at Jake. You. Alone. Through the maintenance shafts. You have already proven you can navigate them. You know the wing's layout. You stopped the last breach by yourself. That was animals, Commander Grant objected. This is armed terrorists with hostages. Completely different situation, is it? Strategist Vaughn asked. Or is it just another problem to solve? Martinez has shown exceptional ability to assess threats and respond appropriately. He might be our best chance. All eyes turned to Jake. He looked at the holographic display. 17 hostages. Good people trapped because terrorists wanted to make a point. He thought about Zira Lin, who might be one of those blue markers. About Dr. Kelness, who had been afraid of humans but was trying to overcome that fear. I will go, Jake said. But I need to do it my way. No weapons. I talk first. Only fight if there is absolutely no other choice. No weapons? Vexthor's scales shifted colors rapidly. You will be facing armed militants. This is suicide. Weapons will make them more aggressive, Jake explained. If I come in armed, they will treat it as an attack. I need them off balance, confused. I need to be something they do not expect. Lindara studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. I am granting you temporary authorization to attempt a rescue. But Martinez, understand this. You are not just representing yourself. You are representing all of humanity. What you do in the next hour will determine Earth's future in the Concordance. No pressure, Jake said with a weak smile. Just like the evaluation, right? The evaluation is still happening, Lindara said. This is the real test. Not a simulation. Real lives. Real consequences. Show us who humans really are. Jake nodded. He grabbed a small communication earpiece and headed for the maintenance shafts. As he crawled through the narrow passages, he could hear Captain Dren's voice guiding him. 8 hostiles confirmed. Leader calls himself Fornak. Former security officer dishonorably discharged. The others are true believers in his cause. They are scared but committed. That makes them dangerous. Jake reached the access panel that would let him into the wing. He paused, taking slow breaths. Fear was there, sharp and real. But fear was just information. It told him to be careful, to think, to plan. He used it. He opened the panel quietly and slipped into a storage room. Through the door he could hear voices, nervous, angry voices. The terrorists were arguing about something. Jake activated his earpiece. I am inside, he whispered. I see 5 hostiles in the main observation dome. Where are the others? 2 patrolling the corridors. 1 guarding the hostages in the containment control room. Jake moved through the shadows, staying low. He reached the control room and peered through a window. He could see the hostages huddled together. Zira Lin was there, her lights dim with fear. Torvin stood protectively over the smaller cadets. And Dr. Kelness sat in the corner, trying to keep everyone calm. 1 terrorist guarded them, a large alien with 4 arms holding a weapon. Jake recognized the species. They valued honor above all else. That was something he could use. Jake opened the door suddenly. The guard spun, weapon raised. Jake held up his empty hands. I am Jake Martinez, he said calmly. The human you are looking for. I am unarmed. I am here to negotiate. The guard stared at him, weapon trembling slightly. You came alone? Why? Because people are in danger, Jake said simply. And I do not let people get hurt when I can help it. Tell your leader I am here. Tell him I want to talk. The guard hit his communicator. Within seconds, Jake heard heavy footsteps. 2 more terrorists arrived, weapons pointed at him. They marched him to the main observation dome. Vornak stood in the center, surrounded by his followers. He was a tall alien with gray skin and hard eyes. He looked at Jake with a mixture of satisfaction and surprise. The human, Vornak said. You actually came. I expected you to hide, to let others die for you. Perhaps deathworlders are even more arrogant than I thought. I came because innocent people are in danger, Jake said. He kept his voice steady, non-threatening. You wanted to talk to me. I am here, let the hostages go. Your argument is with me, not them. My argument is with your entire species, Vornak said. Deathworlders are violent, dangerous. You prove this by existing. The galaxy must be protected from you. You might be right, Jake said, surprising everyone. We are from a dangerous world. We are stronger than most species. We have capacity for violence. But does that make us evil? Does that mean we should be isolated forever? Vornak blinked, thrown off by Jake's agreement. You admit you are dangerous? Of course. A kitchen knife is dangerous. A fire is dangerous. But we use knives to cook and fires to stay warm. Being dangerous is not the same as being evil. It is what you do with that danger that matters. Pretty words, Vornak growled. But words do not change what you are. You cannot be trusted. You cannot be controlled. Neither can you, Jake pointed out. You are holding innocent people hostage, threatening to kill them. Who is the dangerous one right now? The unarmed human trying to talk or the armed militant threatening murder? Several of Vornak's followers shifted uncomfortably. Jake noticed. He pressed the advantage. I understand your fear, he continued. You are scared of what humans might do. That is reasonable. But isolation does not make dangerous things safer. It makes them desperate. If you push humanity away, if you force us to be enemies, then you create the very threat you fear. He is trying to manipulate us, one of the terrorists said. Do not listen, am I? Jake asked. Or am I just telling you the truth? You wanted to show the galaxy that humans are dangerous, fine. I am here alone, unarmed, facing 8 armed militants. What does that show? That humans run toward danger to save others? That we value life even when it puts our own at risk? While talking, Jake had been slowly moving around the room, positioning himself, observing. He saw where each terrorist stood, where their weapons pointed. He saw the fear in some of their eyes, the doubt. Enough talk, Vornak said, raising his weapon. Kneel. Jake knelt, but he positioned himself carefully, close enough to Vornak, between him and some of his followers. He kept talking. Before you do this, answer one question. If you kill me, if you broadcast it across the galaxy, what happens next? Do you think humanity gives up? Or do they come looking for justice? You will prove their danger by making them angry. Is that really what you want? Vornak hesitated. Just for a second. Just long enough, Jake moved. Years of training, natural human speed, and perfect timing combined. He lunged forward, knocked Vornak's weapon aside, and used the leader as a shield. In the same motion, he pulled a flash grenade from Vornak's belt and activated it. The room exploded in light and sound. Jake moved through the chaos like water through stones. 3 quick strikes, 3 terrorists down. He grabbed another's weapon, disabled it, used the momentum to throw the terrorist into 2 others. 5 seconds. 6 terrorists neutralized. 2 left standing, both looking shocked and scared. Jake stood before them, empty hands raised. Drop the weapons, he said quietly. Please, I do not want to hurt anyone else. They dropped them. Jake secured Vornak. Checked the others to make sure no one was seriously injured. He had been careful, controlling every strike, using only necessary force. The security team burst in moments later to find Jake calmly applying a medical wrap to a terrorist he had accidentally bruised too hard during the takedown. Sorry about that, Jake was saying to the wounded terrorist. I pulled the punch, but I might have misjudged your species' bone density. Captain Dren stopped and stared. Again. How?